Welcome to Jotish with Marc Boney. Marc is an internationally renowned teacher, author, and practitioner of the ancient astrological science of India. He is known for his engaging teaching and writing style and his ability to communicate the complex concepts of Jotish in a clear, understandable way. Now, here is Marc Boney.
Namaste, everyone. This is Marc Boney, and I'm here to talk to you about the upcoming course that I'm offering online called The Foundations of Jotish that I recently posted another video on my YouTube channel about. And that video was addressed primarily to beginners who might be interested in taking a course that would teach them very thoroughly all the fundamentals of basic astrology. But today I'd like to address an audience that may actually have a greater background in Jotish already and talk a little bit about why you could potentially benefit from this Foundations of Jotish course as well. And to do that, if you'll bear with me, I'd like to tell you a little story about experience I had back in 2013. I was scheduled to go teach in Sochi, Russia with my teacher, K.N. Rao, but at the last minute he wasn't able to make it, such that I and another close associate of his, a man by the name of Deepak Basario, ended up doing all the teaching. And a gentleman had gone with us, another Indian gentleman who actually had a considerable background in Jotish already. He'd actually been studying it for like 10 years, had read most of K.N. Rao's books, had been attending conferences and so on. He was serving as our videographer. And after I had presented for a few days, he came up to me and he said, Marc, seeing you present has made me realize that there's a lot of gaps in my understanding of even some of the more fundamental and basic concepts within Jotish. And it's helping me to understand why I've been struggling to be able to pick up a chart and actually make sense of it and extract accurate inferences and be able to read it correctly. And to make a long story short, he lived in the U.S. and subsequent to that program, he asked me to begin tutoring him in Jotish. And he started out by saying, Marc, I want you to treat me as a total beginner. Presume that I know nothing. I want to start over, as it were, and learn this more in the systematic, structured way in which you teach it. And we began doing that, and he was fairly affluent, so he could afford to learn on an individual basis. And we did that for about a year and a half, after which he acknowledged that he had taken a huge leap forward in being able to extract useful meaning from a chart and a systematic and structured way in which to do that. So I tell you that story because it actually paralleled a little bit of my own experience. When I was first jumping into Jotish, and like a lot of new students, I was just fascinated by the whole wide array of different interpretive principles and techniques and the different aspects of Jotish. And so I started leaping into these things until I realized that this really wasn't working for me. It really wasn't helping me. The way I sort of thought about it at the time is that, like a lot of people, I wanted to jump ahead and read Shakespeare, a very sophisticated form of expression, before I'd even, you might say, learned the ABCs. And so I decided to back up, to take a step back, you might say, to take a step forward. And it's at that point I started, putting myself through a very, I'd say, rigorous building of a foundation in all the fundamentals of Jotish and its most basic concepts and interpretive principles. And this is what I'm looking to do in this program, The Foundations of Jotish, that I'm going to be offering. And to give you sort of an idea about this, Jotish and factors in a chart always oftentimes present us with a variety of paradoxes, and there are different concepts within Jotish about which there are lacks of understanding and how to manage these sort of things, particularly when a couple of them apply to, say, one factor in a chart. And so to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, I'm showing the chart here of someone who you may or may not recognize. He was an individual that was a major TV star, some time ago, but also appeared in movies as well, a gentleman by the name of Garner. He became famous in the U.S. in the late 1950s, 1960s for a TV show called Maverick, a Western. And this all happened in his life during the major period of his Mercury, which, if you understand a little bit about how to see charts, it was his Lagna, or the sign on his first house is Virgo, which makes Mercury the planet who rules both the first house and also the 10th house. And you see it placed here in its sign Pisces, which is actually the sign where Mercury is said to be debilitated. And it's in a collection of other planets that also fall in Pisces. Mercury, Venus, and of course Venus gets its exaltation sign in Pisces, and Jupiter is there. Jupiter is the planet who rules Pisces, and then also the Sun. But if we can zoom in here, I'm not sure you're going to be able to see this, but if you looked at his Mercury, you would see that it's at 2 degrees 17 minutes of Pisces, whereas his Venus is at 2 degrees 46 minutes. Now, they then therefore create something that's known in Jotish as a Graha Yudra, or Graha Yuddha, or a planetary war. And planets that are involved in a planetary war are too close to each other in degrees. They're within a degree of each other. The typical idea is that both planets suffer in the same ways that anyone who's at two countries at war, there's a certain degree in which both parties suffer. But then there's also then someone who wins the war, and that planet will be able to express itself better and more strongly. Well, there's all kinds of different ideas about who wins the planetary war, and then there's this idea of how can Mercury, being in its debilitation sign, actually give him great success and fame. But there are technical features going on here that anyone who correctly understood these could see that Mercury actually is empowered to give very strong and favorable results here, which it did. Right? And so this is what I'm referring to when I say that there are elements of Jyotish. Another one being something called planetary combustion, which you may have heard of when a planet gets very close to the sun, and it's not considered to be a favorable thing at all. Yet I could show you instances where a so-called combust planet, again, when a person ran the period of that planet, that they enjoyed great success and so on. There's a condition called Gandanta, when a planet is not only in the borderline between two signs, but also between two nakshatras. This happens in the very late degrees of the water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, or the very later degrees or early degrees of the fire signs. And again, this is said to be a very bad condition, that a planet in such a condition is not going to be able to give strong and favorable results. Yet I will show you example after example over where such a planet, at least from one point of view and from one angle, did so. So these are the various paradoxes that exist within Jyotish. If you've had any experience, you've come across these, and it's a source of confusion for students in my experience. It's a source of misunderstanding. And again, I'm not meaning to present myself here as any final authority on Jyotish or on these matters, but I have accumulated a certain amount of experience over the last 20 years. Taking a very research-oriented approach, not necessarily just going by what's given in the ancient text, but actually looking at charts and what came out with regards to how planets gave certain effects and understanding why. And this is what I'm going to be teaching, particularly in this first module on planets that I'll be teaching related to a series of modules called the Foundations of Jotish. So even if you are not just a beginning student, but someone who's maybe actually absorbed quite a bit of Jotish already, you may find some value in this program as well, to help sort out some of these difficult situations that you run into when trying to interpret a chart. The course again starts in June 19th. It'll be conducted online. I'll have different components to it. One component will be the live webinars, but each lesson will also come in a written form where all the learning points, and all the illustrations are there so a student can repeat the lesson, go over the examples again and again, as I did with a lot of Kay and Rao's material, and before you actually comprehend and really own it. So if you're attracted to this idea of maybe going back and learning the basics in a more thorough and grounded and extensive way, more in-depth way, then I think you may find what you're looking for in this particular program. So this is what I wanted to share with you today, and if you'd like to participate, I certainly welcome that. And so for now, I'll just say namaste and hope to see you in the future. Bye for now.
Learn more at www.marcboney.com.